Good Thursday morning, everybody. It is the 23rd. Um, even though it is, I should say, not was, but it is a wet, gloomy type of day. I'm actually kind of feeling quite energized. Diane and I did a live chat, last night. Some of you might have been there. If not, and you're members of Jerry's channel, you can always go back and watch it. Um, I do still have some minor problems, of course. It's allergy season. Even though the rain is kind of calmed the pollen down, it's already in my system. So, but I'm not worried. I'm not focused on that. Um, Yesterday actually was a good day, all in all, for me. Work was a good day, even though when I first walked in, it was, excuse me, it was not exactly a straight. It was kind of a mess. Then, in fact, because of the way the weather, we got people coming in before it started getting really bad. So for the first 2 hours, 2 hours maybe, it was kind of hectic. And then of course I had to put away our liquor delivery. But other than that, yesterday was a pretty good day. I mean, got up, did my thing, had food, went to work. Oh, I don't know why I'm yawning. Probably because of the fact I'm out of breath. Um, but it was, I mean, no major issues, which was great because the day before, 2 days before, it was kind of like I no. Monday night I had a little bit of a breakdown because it was very stressful. It was very hectic. But for anybody who's ever suffered from depression, knows that there are hills and valleys. There are good days, there are bad days. There are good days, there are bad days. Sometimes there are good months before a bad day comes along. But that's a daily struggle for a lot of people who suffer from depression. Now I know a lot of you have talked about, even if I don't go to an actual professional counselor, I should seek some sort of counseling. And one person even wanted to suggest a men's group with my church. Well, right now, because of the whole COVID situation, there's no gatherings. Um, so I have to deal with what I have to deal with on my own, which brings me to today's point. Today's point is it's very simple. God comes to us and gives us strength in our weakest moments, and that's God's voice is not always a booming voice that catches your attention. Excuse me. Sometimes God's voice is a silent whisper that in the noise and confusion and humming insanity of mankind, we don't always hear, but it's there. And I've come to realize that in the modern day world, I should say, um, those of us who do really good jobs and are really diligent at our job don't always get looked at because of the fact that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. It's those who aren't doing their jobs or are lacking or being lazy. Those are the ones who get looked at the most. And I guess in some ways I'm kind of happy that I'm not always looked at because of the fact that I am doing my job. But then there are times where it's kind of like, why am I being overlooked for certain things? It's just the way the world is now. And nothing I can do about it. I just keep going on. I just keep doing what I have to do. And that's basically where I'm at. So I'm just in these times right now. I am happy I have my health. I'm happy I have my job. I'm happy that I'm not struggling with financial issues. I do feel sorry for all those who are struggling with their health and are struggling with financial gain just so they can pay the bill and put food on the table. Um, I know that a lot of places are in such a lockdown that their countries have basically put it to the point where they can't even come out of their their yard, basically. They can't go running. They can't go walking their dogs beyond their property line. Um, I read the different texts or the different comments and the different things people put out there, and then some of the things that were talked about on our live chat last night. We had a viewer from South Africa telling us that their country is in such a lockdown they can't walk beyond their property line. Um, and then there are other places here in the states that are talking about beaches being open, and by May 1st everything's going to start opening up again. Yet there are certain parts of this country alone whose the peak for the COVID virus hasn't even come about. And our president is talking about reestablishing openings and economic things, and I'm sitting there going, I can understand the economics because that's how the world runs nowadays, but without the people, there are no economics. So if you're going to put the people in danger of getting sick or passing away, that's foolhardy. Jerry made my tea this morning, and that was the first sip I had. Sometimes Jerry puts in enough tea or honey, sometimes not enough, but that's actually a good cup. Um, so I do concern myself with, and maybe that's part of my problem. I get overly concerned about the world, not just my little corner, but the world in general. Because when the world suffers something like a pandemic, it's not affecting just me. It's affecting everything around me. And I know there's a lot of people who are dealing with the stresses of this situation. But we have to think about the factor that, one, this pandemic doesn't show itself like an actual outbreak or any of those movies like Outbreak or I can't remember the other movie Jerry was telling me about. But we don't know who's got it. It presents itself like a flu. So you can sit there and think, oh, it's just a flu. I can fight this. I've fought flus before. If you think it's the flu, if it presents itself in such a manner that it's causing you flu-like symptoms that are, it don't matter how mild they are, go go please self quarantine. Go get yourself. I mean, get yourself to a doctor. Get yourself checked out. Self quarantine. Clean your environment like crazy. Wash your hands. Clean packages and mail before you open it. If you have to leave your home, which I can understand there are things that you need: cleaning supplies, toilet paper, food. That's kind of important. Either A, have somebody who can go shopping for you and then put it outside your house so you can bring it in without risk of contaminating people around you. I'm I get mad at my job. I work at a convenience store, convenience store slash gas station, and I have seen so many people come and go they're not even coming and going for essentials. They're coming. I mean, lotto, tobacco, alcohol. That's not an essential. That's a luxury. I wish people would know the difference. I mean, yeah, I can understand you're coming or going from work and you want to come in for a slice of pizza and a soda. That's an essential. If you're coming for gas, that's an essential. Well, it's not exactly an essential, but if you have to drive around for a living or drive long distance, then yeah, your gas is essential because you're driving to and from work or for work. But if what you're grabbing is not a food item or an essential item, we have diapers, we have paper towels, toilet paper, we have medicines, over the counter, or not over the counter, but generic medicine like Advil and Tylenol and Benadryl. Actually, I don't know if we do have Benadryl, but those are kind of essentials, especially this time of year because it's flu and cold and allergy season. I mean, I know that some people want to do that get rich scheme and get lottery and whatnot. Then there's the older generation who do that kind of like for entertainment and see how well they can press their luck. But at this point, because we don't know what our economic future is going to be, why are you throwing hundreds of dollars in lottery and you're barely getting half, if not a quarter of that back? That just doesn't make sense to me. And of course, there's a lot of things out there people do that just don't make sense. Don't seem like common sense. But I mean, we've heard stories locally about farmers who are literally plowing their crops under because they don't have enough people to help them harvest half of it. And it's just like, it boggles my brain because, I mean, you would think farming, because it's out in the open air, and a lot of people might wear masks and whatnot just because of the dust that the equipment kicks up, and protective gloves on their hands just because of the product they might be dealing with could harm their hands or whatever. I would think farming would be the one thing that we would not only be concerned about but help out. I mean, I fear that this is going to be another 1940s, 1930s, 1920s where stock market crashes and the Dust Bowl returns because farming goes downhill. Or it. I worry about what the future is going to be like because of this pandemic, and there's not much we could have done to stop it from spreading. I mean, there's all kinds of rumors how it started. Um, the main thing that they do know is it started in China in one of their open air food markets. Yeah, well, there's your risk factor right there. I mean, I can understand open air food markets for produce, baked goods, um, raw meat. No, 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 no. It's one of the things we did learn here in the early period of America, that open air food with raw meat is not exactly the greatest way of doing things. Now, I can understand if you're doing an open air food market and the meat is either pre cooked or pre wrapped or something along that. Not raw. No, no. I mean, it's especially with today's modern day environment. Modern day environment with all the pollutants and chemicals in the air because of factories and whatnot, you're running a risk. You are running a risk. I mean, at least with produce and whatnot like that, excuse me, you can take it home and wash it off and clean it before you put it in your refrigerator or cook it or whatever. Raw meat, once that bacteria factor gets into that raw meat, which is almost, I wouldn't say almost instantaneously, but it's it happens quickly. Um, One of the things I learned in cooking classes was when you even when you go and buy meat from the grocery stores, um, it's pre-packed or it's packed really quickly. Very rarely is it left out in the open, not in a cool environment or an environment that stifles or slows bacterial growth. And then, like when we get our package, when we get our meat from our grocer, usually it's a big family pack. And what we do is we bring it home, and when we're ready to divide it, we'll divide it, package it up, and then throw it in the freezer right away. We don't let it sit out in the open for hours, minutes, well, minutes maybe, but hours. It's it's one of those things where somebody somewhere down the line that caused this whole coronavirus to start was not doing something smart. I know a lot of people have this "what don't kill you make you stronger" mentality. Well, yeah, I don't take risks, especially with your food, because you take risks with your food. You're not taking risks of harming your family. You're taking risks of harming more because I mean, look how fast COVID virus actually spread. Now I know they say it has a 14-day gestation period or whatever before it's no longer dangerous. Well, somebody traveling in modern day times via plane or a fast train, 14 days is short. It's kind of short, but it jumped the ocean to come to the states. It jumped all over Europe and Asia because they're connected. One person on a plane who has COVID virus doesn't know they have it, jumps on a plane, comes to California, New York, Brazil, Guatemala. It don't matter where the person's going. It don't take no 14 days in modern day travel to, it. Let's see here. The trip from the states from Little Rock from Lambert Airport, St. Louis to Frankfurt, Germany took less than a day. It took 18 hours, 12, 18 hours, something like that, to fly across the ocean. Um, and that was on a regular Boeing 747 or whatever it was. A bullet train going across Europe takes hours, minutes even, to get from certain points in Europe via modern day travel. Um, the bullet train that they use to get from France to England, minutes. You know, maybe an hour or two, if that much. It's just amazing how fast travel is nowadays. But my biggest concerns, besides everybody's health, is just, you know, be mindful of not only just your environment, but yes, I'm saying this, and no, I know I'm probably going to get some backlash. I know I have had days where I just couldn't think straight, and my words were quite harsh, and yes, I got backlash for that. And I understand that. I'm gonna say I deserved it because I was just very, very, very unhappy and just couldn't contain myself. But I do it all the time, and I regret it sometimes. Sometimes I don't because sometimes I think people need to hear the severity and harshness of another person's words to get them to realize that they're doing something wrong. And it's not my place to basically do it, but sometimes I have to because I mean, there are times where something's going amiss and you need to straighten it out. And the thing is, what's going amiss is not just your part. It's the factor that there are people who aren't doing their parts. For instance, it is part of the day crew at my job. It's part of their tasks during the daytime to and fill, straighten and stock the shelves, especially the cooler shelf when we have items on sale. Because like right now we have buy two Coke or Pepsi products get one free in the 20-ounce bottles, 20 and 16-ounce bottles. And when you have people coming and going and grabbing 3 to 6 bottles at a time, your shelves get empty real quick. The one thing that I pointed out to my supervisor, and she understands and agrees with me, that there are more people during the daytime than there are at nighttime. Like right now, we have 3 to 4 people during the daytime. Nighttime, we've never had three. If we had three, it was like Friday or Saturday night because the fact that it was going to be a busy night. It's the weekend. It's always going to be busy. Well, right now, because of the whole COVID, we've cut hours. Understandable. But the thing is, there's still more people during the daytime than there are nighttime, whether the hours have been cut or not. So it would be beneficial to everybody, not just the night crew, but everybody, if the crews that have the most amount of people can do a little extra. And I don't mean like they need to basically clean the store like crazy or anything like that, but they can afford to have one person going in coolers every morning. Have somebody go into coolers and literally fill the shelves as best as they can. Hopefully if they do it midday, instead of standing around for the last 2 hours of the day with their thumbs in their noses, go in there and throw some extra stuff on the sales shelf. I don't mean go in there and fill everything. Just double check the shelves that have the sale products, and they're usually marked with a red dot. It's, I mean, just I call it common courtesy. It is my job at nighttime to make sure the store is cleaned, try to stock the shelves. I mean, it is part of my job to do all these things. When let's say before the COVID virus hit, like back in February, my supervisor made a AM/PM chart And this is basically a list of things that the AM and PM people were responsible for. And for the first 2 weeks of having this chart, everything was running perfectly. It was not like, oh, you forgot to do this, or you forgot to do that, or you didn't touch it. It was like everybody had that chart, saw that chart, was able to do that. Well, then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, the chart disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to it. Things started getting laxed. People were slacking off. And it's just like, we've been doing this for 2 solid weeks. How's it you're forgetting that this is what we're supposed to be doing, or should be doing? Nobody had an answer. Not even the supervisor. But I go in every day, punch my clock, do my job, do the COVID-19 cleaning chart. In fact, since Monday, since the supervisor went on her vacation, the AM crew doesn't look like they're doing the cleaning chart because nobody's marking down they're not marking down their times or their initials. I haven't stopped. I'm still doing it. I will continue to do it until after this whole COVID-19 thing settles down, and maybe I'll continue it even afterwards, because one of the main things the chart tells you to do is every 2 hours take your sanitizing cleaning rag and wipe off all surfaces, all contact surfaces, basically. Well, that's smart. We should be doing that anyhow, just to keep the store clean. Then every 4 hours, it has you wiping down uh, napkin dispensers, the soda machine, levers, all the other little things that people don't touch all the time. And I'm like, well, I don't wait every 4 hours because, people are constantly getting soda. So that area is constantly getting sticky. People are getting tea. Why do I have to wait every 4 hours? Why don't we just do everything, if we can, every 2 hours? Then, of course, I kept on reading, and it was like, oh, well, I can understand only every 4 hours going outside to wipe off the gas pump handles and touch screens and things like that. It's what we have to do, and we should have been doing it all along before COVID ever came around, because even without COVID, we don't know who's sick. We don't know who might have some bug or something like that that could go from person to person and be, even if they're not touching each other, they're touching each other's surfaces. Everybody's putting their hands on the napkin thing. Everybody's touching the soda machine. And even if nobody's touching the soda machine directly, it's indirect contact through the cup. But the thing is, the soda machine is getting sticky from the soda syrup. Should be cleaned off anyhow because it's just getting sticky. But one of the things I have tried to ask, and I do mean ask, my fellow coworkers from the morning time is, if you're doing your jobs and you go over to the soda machine and wipe it down, and you notice there's a spill on the floor, or there's some gummy stuff or whatever on the floor, please make it easier on everybody and get a mop and clean it up. Because how many people want to stick their foot in a spot where it's gotten the soda starting to dry up, but it's still gummy? Or the fact of that, even if it doesn't transfer to their shoes, the dirt and whatnot off their shoes, and there's always dirt and dust on people's shoes no matter what, gets on the floor, and all of a sudden you're forming a little black spot. That don't look appealing. But common sense and common courtesy has kind of flown out the window. I'm sorry, I did not get on here to be ranting and raving about my job. Um, and of course, I've been talking for 30 minutes now, and that's, yeah, if I get monetized, that's not going to be a good thing because then it makes it difficult. But just what I'm trying to get at, I guess what I'm trying to get at is think about your fellow man right now. Think about the people around you if you're going to work or you have to get out there in the general populace because of work and you're stopping in a convenience store or grocery store or wherever you're going. The world would be better off if we started practicing or returning to common courtesy and common sense. Now, I know what common sense to one person is might not be common sense to another person, but common courtesy is kind of universal. Be kind to your fellow man, be mindful of their conditions, their health, or whatnot. Do what you would want done to you. If you wanted people to clean up, or not clean up, but keep their environment clean, clean your environment. If you go to a convenience store and you make a mess, clean up your mess. It makes it easier on the next person, it makes it easier on the people working there, and it makes things more enjoyable. It's not as stressed because the person standing behind the register might get a little frustrated or annoyed at the fact that you just made a mess and left it. I have I I have this desire to basically be able to get people to understand that just because it's a convenience store and the person behind the register is getting paid to do a job does not mean you have to leave them more work. They've already got enough work to deal with as is. They've got their store to clean up. They've got their jobs to do. They got stocking to do. It makes it easier for everybody if you throw your trash away, clean up your spill. You don't have to leave a mess just because it's not your house. I mean, if you do leave your mess, some people might think, wow, what does this person's house look like if they're leaving a mess in a grocery store or a convenience store or their job? Just be mindful of the people around you. It makes life easier on everyone and more enjoyable in the workplace. So that's where I'll leave this little video. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comment box. I'm sorry for I've noticed a couple people try to leave comments, but for some reason they weren't there. Like the comment got erased somehow. I know I haven't erased anybody's comments because I read them no matter what. But go ahead and do your best to leave a comment. Hopefully it stays. If you're new to my channel and want to see more videos, give it a thumbs up. Give that bell a tap. It will let you know when I put in a new video. Until next time, God bless and have a good day.